In a few seconds, a doctor is going to slide a needle into a vein in your arm. Someone tells you to count backward from 10. You get to about 7 and then you're gone. Not asleep, not dreaming, gone. For the next few hours, a stranger opens you up with a blade, moves things inside you that were never meant to be moved, puts you back together again, and you are not there for 1 second of it. No fear, no pain, no boredom, no you. Then you blink back into existence in a different room, at a different hour, absolutely convinced no time passed at all. Except it did. Hours of it, missing, and you weren't even there to notice they were gone. So here's the question nobody actually sits with. In that gap, where did you go? Or is the real answer that there was simply no one home to go anywhere? So here's the first thing almost nobody knows, even people who've had 10 surgeries. The word sleep is a lie we tell each other to be polite. Nobody actually gets put to sleep. Sleep is something your brain does to itself, on its own schedule, for its own reasons. It cycles, it dreams, it processes the day. And if something urgent happens, a smoke alarm, someone yelling your name, sleep lets you go. That's the whole design of it. Sleep has an exit built in. General anesthesia has no exit. None. A surgeon can cut into your chest and your brain will not send anyone to check on it. Not because the pain isn't getting through in some soft, vague way. Because the part of you capable of noticing pain has been switched off at the source. Put an anesthetized brain on a monitor, and it doesn't look like a sleeping brain at all. It looks flat, quiet in a way healthy sleep never gets. In the deepest stages, it starts to resemble something closer to a coma than a nap. That's not a scary exaggeration for views. That's just what the equipment shows. So, if it isn't sleep, what actually is it? This is where it gets genuinely interesting, because the answer isn't the brain turns off. The brain doesn't turn off. Your neurons are still firing the entire time you're on that table. What changes is whether they're allowed to talk to each other. Here's the idea neuroscientists keep coming back to. You aren't in one part of your brain. You're not stored behind your eyes or tucked into some command center. You are the conversation, billions of signals crossing between regions, thousands of times a second, stitching sight and memory and sound and emotion into one seamless experience. That stitching is the whole trick. It's the only reason anything feels like anything. Anesthetic drugs go straight for the stitching. They don't silence the rooms. They cut the phone lines between them. Vision keeps firing. Memory keeps firing. They just stop hearing from each other. Picture a city at night where every light is still on inside every building, but every phone line has been quietly snipped one at a time. Nothing has died. Nothing has gone dark. It's just that nobody in any building can reach anybody in any other building anymore. And the moment that happens, there is no hole left to have an experience. There is no one home to answer the phone that isn't ringing anyway. You don't dim like a sunset. You disconnect like a call dropping mid-sentence. Now here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you, because it's not a thought experiment. It's a documented, named medical phenomenon. What if the drug that erases your memory and the drug that stops your muscles from moving both work perfectly? But the drug meant to switch off your awareness doesn't fully do its job. It's called anesthesia awareness, and it's real. Not urban legend, real case report. Clinical literature, real. In the most severe documented instances, a patient is fully paralyzed, fully unable to signal anyone in the room, while some thread of awareness is still present. They can't open their eyes. They can't lift a finger. To every single person standing over them, they look perfectly, peacefully unconscious. It's estimated to happen in something like 1 or 2 out of every 1,000 procedures. That sounds small until you remember how many surgeries happen on this planet before lunchtime. And the reason this can even happen at all tells you something huge about what going under actually is. It is not one switch. It's at least 3: unconsciousness, paralysis, and memory. And they're controlled by different drugs, on different timings, doing different jobs. Normally all 3 land exactly where they're supposed to, at exactly the same moment, and the whole thing feels seamless. Anesthesia awareness is simply what happens on the rare occasion one of those 3 switches is a few minutes late. It's not one door closing. It's 3 doors, and modern medicine is quietly betting that all 3 shut at once, every single time, on every single patient. Let's talk about the moment it actually happens, the transition itself, because it's stranger than you'd think. Right before full unconsciousness sets in, EEG monitors often pick up a brief burst of chaotic, disorganized electrical activity, almost a small electrical storm, right before the brain drops into that flat, quiet pattern. Some researchers think this exact window is where those strange, vivid, half-formed images some patients report, going under or coming out, actually come from. Not a dream, exactly. More like your brain's integration system breaking apart, or rebuilding itself in real time. and catching a few stray frames of film on the way through. And once you're fully under, something even stranger happens to your sense of time. Not it felt fast. Not it felt like a blink. An actual, total absence of duration. A 40-minute procedure and a 6-hour procedure feel identical from the inside, because there is no inside keeping score. This is different from a dreamless night's sleep, where you usually wake up with at least some fuzzy internal sense that hours passed. Under real general anesthesia, that fuzzy sense doesn't even form, because the machinery responsible for laying down memory regions, like the hippocampus, gets specifically, deliberately shut down, not as a side effect, as a design feature. It's part of why the rare person who does experience a flicker of awareness during surgery usually walks away with zero memory that it ever happened, which is either a small mercy or something deeply strange to sit with, depending on how you look at it. There is one drug that breaks this whole pattern, and it's worth mentioning because it hints at a completely different kind of gone. Ketamine doesn't just quiet the brain down uniformly, the way most anesthetics do. It targets the handoff between the thalamus and the cortex, basically the brain's relay station for the outside world. Instead of going uniformly dark, some regions go quiet while others light up in strange, disorganized ways. That's why ketamine experiences get described so differently. Floating sensations, a feeling of leaving the body, vivid dreamlike imagery. Some researchers have noted the overlap between those descriptions and certain reported near-death experiences, and floated the idea that a brain under extreme physical crisis might trigger something similar on its own. That's still a genuinely open, unresolved question in the research. Not a settled fact, but it's a strange thread connecting two topics that shouldn't have anything in common. Waking up turns out to be just as messy as going under. Maybe messier. It isn't a clean light switching back on. It's different systems rebooting on completely different timelines. Basic reflexes and motor control tend to come back fast. Judgment, filtering, coherent short-term memory, the stuff that makes you sound like yourself can lag behind by minutes, sometimes hours, which is exactly why people say ridiculous things in recovery rooms. Ask the same question 5 times in a row, or become suddenly, dramatically emotional about something completely mundane. Nothing's wrong. Your brain is just bringing systems back online in whatever order it happens to, and the part responsible for editing yourself for public consumption is generally one of the last to boot. Older patients get hit with this harder. There is a documented condition called postoperative cognitive dysfunction, a period of fog, memory trouble, and slowed thinking that can drag on for days or occasionally weeks after anesthesia. The leading theory is that the older the brain, the slower it is at re-establishing that same web of connections that got cut when the drugs went in. Same mechanism. Slower rebuild. Which brings us to the question that actually should keep you up tonight, not, where did you go? But something worse. When you came back, how do you know it was actually you? Think about what has to happen for that wake-up moment to occur. The original network, the specific web of connections, generating the specific experience of being you. Right now, reading this sentence was, by every honest measure, switched off. Fully, not paused, not dimmed, disassembled. What opens its eyes in recovery is a brain that has rebuilt the same structure, loaded the same memories, and is completely, sincerely convinced it's a continuation of the person who was counting backward from 10. And there is no experiment, no scan, no test in existence that can tell you whether that's true, whether it's really a continuation, or whether it's simply an extremely convincing, memory-intact copy that has no way of knowing it isn't the original. Nobody can answer that. Not for anesthesia. And if you think about it a little too long, not for tomorrow morning either. And maybe that's the actual point of this whole subject. We built an entire branch of medicine around deliberately, safely, repeatedly inducing something we still can't fully define, let alone explain. It works. It works millions of times a day, on people who never once stopped to wonder what actually happened to them, while their body was open on a table. Maybe you don't go anywhere when the drugs take hold. Maybe there is no dark room, no waiting, no dream running quietly in the background. Maybe the truth is simpler and stranger than going anywhere at all. The specific pattern of connections that makes you just stops being assembled for a while. And then, one messy, staggered piece at a time, without you feeling a single second of it happen, it puts itself back together again. Which means every single person who's ever woken up from surgery has already lived through the exact experience so many of us spend our whole lives afraid of. They just didn't feel it happen, and neither will you.